one of the more interesting things that said, hey, I got to talk to David, isn't just that you've got this great career that's been going on for decades and decades, but it's also you've got these interesting Jewish roots. Do I have it correct that synagogue is where you kind of started performing?
It is. It's sort of like the jazz singer. My roots are very much there. Yeah, when I was a little boy, maybe 8 or 9, my dad and I and sister were in the choir in the high holidays. And it was a big synagogue, Hewlett East Rockaway Temple in congregation Etz Chaim. And they have, for high holidays, it was 3,000 people. And that was an interesting thing. So, but that's where I got to know those beautiful Hebrew melodies, those gorgeous things. And my dad and I were given solos in the choir, and we'd step forward and we'd sing, you know, Aresh sifosenu yerav lifonecha el ram v'niso. It's beautiful stuff. And we both try to keep from crying, and that was quite beautiful. And it was one of the other things that really made me want to get into music. It just moved me so deeply, and does to this day.
I can imagine it. What you just said is kind of the opposite of, I can't imagine you saw or heard this when Howard Stern had Adam Sandler on about 2 years ago, and he asked about his Haftorah, and Howard Stern just went into a line and Adam Sandler finished it, and they kind of went back and forth. It's kind of weird how you still remember this stuff from childhood, yet if I said, David, what did you have for lunch yesterday? I'm guessing you don't remember.
No. Unless it was a nice noodle soup, I'd remember that.
In that case, for sure. And that was the temple you were bar mitzvahed at Beyond.
Yeah. That was good. And I got girls from that too, I tell you. Next day in school, oh, David, that Haftorah was very nice. You wouldn't think.
Those 5 towns are kind of a mysterious place. There's every now and then there'll be a TV show that references the 5 towns. Yet weirdly, 5 Towns College is not in the 5 towns, which makes it even more confusing per se. But you said that you grew up in Hewlett and then the family moved to Lynbrook?
Well, I went to school in Lynbrook. And and then I hung out in East Rockaway. It was that little enclave thing. And Hewlett Harbor, which is right next to Hewlett.
Yeah.
It was so odd because Hewlett, well, you know these places. I mean, Hewlett, it literally across East Rockaway Road was Hewlett Harbor. I'm my street, and I could see Hewlett Harbor right there. And I never went there. Never. And it wasn't until high school or junior high school where I was actually dating someone who lived in Hewlett Harbor that I actually visited Hewlett. And then they had a duck pond. And I could feed the ducks. That was the other good thing about it.
Of course.
We stayed we stayed in our little place, you know.
Well, how many native New Yorkers do you know that have been to the Empire State Building?
That's funny. It's true. More people have seen, you know, movies about it than been there.
And then did those early synagogue roots lead you to performing at bar mitzvahs?
Well, yeah. I mean, in bands,
Sure.
You know, we play Hang On Sloopy and silly things. But I didn't do the wedding singer thing, or, you know, I didn't do that thing. But that music, that is the point. It killed me. It just killed me. And it still does. You know, even if I go to synagogue these days and there's a particular melody, you know, it's sort of like a pop hit. It's a pop hit when the Torah comes out and everyone's going, you know, daven, 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 this and this and that and this and that, and all of a sudden at once, and I am a wreck. I am sobbing every time. It's tribal, it's ancient, it's something very deep.
That raises a really, really good point, you know, which I just thought of. the way that, okay, the shofar is going to come at this point. It's almost like if, say, I'm wearing a Kiss t-shirt, I love the band Kiss. Not everybody does, but the way that the show happens, okay, well, this is the part where the bass solo is going to be, and this is the part where they're going to fake the encore. It makes you wonder how much of showmanship actually comes from religious services where they have to keep the people's attention after they doze off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not no coincidence that 90% of show business is Jewish.
For better and for worse, it is.
For better for worse. No, it's true. That's funny. That's a funny idea.
Yeah. So all that said, did we talk about earlier what everything that you're up to at the moment? Is there anything besides your friend who invented claymation? Anything besides that you want to focus on? If not, we'll go into the original chat.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the thing that's really kind of cool is we're putting together this incredible website, davidpomeranz.com. You got to hawk these things, baby. And my wife wants to make sure that I do. But she's right, because what's up there are all these goodies and things that we put up there, pictures and videos and things you could buy, shirts and hats and hoo-ha. But it's a lot of fun up there. So I wanted to let everybody know that come on in.
And when you go to that website, it links to many of the great songs that you've written that other people have performed. So you hear the song that Freddie Mercury is performing that you wrote. Wow.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
I mean, how many outside performers outside of Queen, did Freddie Mercury perform the works of? 5? Pretty short list right there.
Oh, no, he did that with a guy called Cliff Richard. Do you know who Cliff Richard is?
Yes, he, only famous in Europe, yet he's almost like, I don't know, the James Taylor of, no, that's not a good one. The Tom Jones? No, he's Welsh. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he was a pop guy. He went back to the early 60s having hits in the UK. Big guy. And he had a couple of hits in America too, but it was he that did It's in Every One of Us, my song It's in Every One of Us, in a play on the West End called Time. And Laurence Olivier spoke the lyrics, Cliff sang the song. So Cliff was doing a concert, and it was a fundraiser at Albert Hall, and he sings the song, and he calls up his buddy, Freddie Mercury. Hey, Freddie, come on up. And they both sing It's in Every One of Us. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding? And it's quite something, quite something.
I can only imagine. I don't have any songs cut by Freddie Mercury or performed by Freddie Mercury personally. So that's the bottom line. So I'll ask you the typical closer that sure. I didn't ask you before. And that's, David, any last words for the kids?
For the kids, as in kids, musical kids, or the kids? What do you mean?
The kids.
The kids? Go to school. No, I don't. You know what? My last words. Think for yourself. Collect the data. Look at it. Mm-hmm. Evaluate it. Think for yourself. That goes for your, and you have your journey, your interests, your passions, your loves. Do that thing.
Paltrocast. So great to connect. And is your day going so far pretty well?
Yeah, it's going great.
Great. And I'm getting you from Clearwater. Beautiful, beautiful Clearwater.
Yeah. Have you ever been here?
Yeah, I had the pleasure. The city flew me out last year. And what a surprisingly awesome city.
It's sweet. It's very sweet. The beaches are great. People are nice.
Great seafood. There's festivals all the time that the city's sponsoring where they bring in top talent and all that. What was it that brought you down there?
Well, I study Scientology.
Okay.
And they have a very big Scientology center down here. And there's certain kinds of courses and things that you do that are only given in Clearwater, Florida.
Right,
right. So my wife and I wanted to do those things, so we moved here.
Got it. Yeah, beautiful city, great rooftop bars and seafood and beaches and festivals. I definitely hope to get back there again when life gets back to normal. But when did you move out of New York?
Oh, that was back in the 70s, really. Um, I went out to California. The first
Mhm.
time I went to college in Cincinnati, and then I moved out to San Francisco, and then to Los Angeles for 28 years, and then back here. But I left New York around 73-ish, something like that.
New York and Ohio, the music scene of the 70s has this weird connection where everything was related to the Belkins or this one attorney whose last name I can't remember. Is that part of your connection too?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Belkin was more in Cleveland, from my memory. Cincinnati had, oh God, what was his name? Oh man, I can't remember his name. But it had its promoters and opinion leaders, and big shots in the area, But they had great musicians, amazing clubs, and there was a club called the Black Dome, which had Alice Cooper and stuff. I opened for Alice Cooper at the Black Dome. I remember that. But really great. I mean, anyone that came to town would play at these places. It's pretty cool.
Right. That was something I was eventually going to get to. That if you ask 10 people about David Pomeranz in like different parts of the world, you'll hear different things. Like you'll hear in the Philippines and some parts of Asia, like, oh yeah, the ballad guy, he makes such beautiful music. And then you ask people out here, they might go, yeah, I know he opened for Billy Joel. He had kind of a harder rock thing at the beginning. Then other people might go, yeah, the guy who sang the Perfect Strangers theme. And then other people go, oh yeah, that guy, he's had all these songs cut by famous artists. It's really this unbelievable career where everyone knows you for something different. How do you like to be thought of?
That's a very funny question, and interesting. Well, I tried to pigeonhole myself for a while, based on the advice people gave me, right, over the years,
Sure.
and I gave up on that. Finally, I say, well, I'm a musician. Sorry, sorry, guys. I don't know what I am. I like music, all kinds, like you, I'm sure. Are you a musician as well?
I play, but I went to the dark side, the industry.
Oh, okay. What is your background in the industry? Tell me.
I work. I still consult for some artists, and I, of course, interview artists and write articles and all that. But artist management and
really, well,
music publishing and what basically artist manages what needs to be done right now. Can you do it? No. Can you learn to do it? Yes. And then over time, so I still work with the band OK Go, and every now and then Rachel Yamagata will call me up and go, hey, what does this contract mean? And I'll read it or something like that.
Well, that's good. So you've got this pool of artists and people that you've worked with and work with here and there, and then some others more dedicatedly. Is that what it is now?
Yeah, it's this multifaceted life where sometimes I'm writing and sometimes I'm doing weird research assignments, and sometimes an artist goes, I need help. So whenever the phone rings, you answer it,
I understand. And is it, what was I going to ask you? I relate to what you mean. I mean, it's kind of, if you're an artist, you're an artist. And if you're a writer, which is being that very thing. I knew what I was going to ask you. When you write, is it particularly music? Or do you write, do you talk with actors as well and other artists?
Oh, yeah. For sure. As I was telling you, Clearwater, the city flew me out last year. I think it was February 2019 when I went out there as part of the Blues Seafood Festival and all that, and spent a couple days there. And sometimes they fly you out to a city and they go, well, we know you only cover travel, but, and you go, no, I also do music and arts. And then you speak to a music publicist and they go, we know you only do music, but, and they go, well, no, they just sent me.
We've got a similar we have the same thing. That's so funny.
Well, yeah, that's why I was drawn to wanting to connect and learn more about your path, because I can only imagine that Wikipedia and all these things are beyond incomplete about your credits and things you've done and all that. And you've been at such a high level for 35, 40 years where you haven't been struggling per se. And most people will just peg you to one or two credits and you go, how? Why just those one, two things, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's all a compliment and a credit to what you're doing. So when you're mentioning like, hey, we opened for Alice Cooper, you know, that's comparable to say Eric Carmen, where he was originally the Raspberries before he became known for All by Myself.
Right.
Or Michael Bolton, where he's thought of as this easy listening guy, but he was in a hard rock band called Blackjack.
I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that. That I didn't know. I knew he was a writer. I knew he did the, you know, wrote some hits and stuff, but that's interesting. Blackjack. So it was a rock band, huh?
Oh yeah, they had the lead single on the Rodney Dangerfield film Back to School.
Oh, I love that movie. I know that movie.
Exactly. So over to you. What exactly was it that took you out of being associated with hard rock to having ballads, and it wasn't a novelty thing that you could write love songs and they were good and accepted?
Well, I was never really hard rock per se. I mean, I played the drums, and it was one of the instruments I picked up in school because it helped get girls. I mean, let's tell the truth.
Yeah, sure.
You know, oh, he's cute, you know. So I noticed the difference in school. I thought, oh, this drum thing is a good thing. But and I love rhythm and such. But my real love, my heart has always been in theater music. Even when I was a little boy. Where are you from? You're from Long Island, or where?
Long Island, New York. Yeah.
Where in Long Island are you from?
Long Beach.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of towns over you grew up. You know,
stomping grounds for sure.
Exactly.
But so when I was 5 years old ish, I remember sitting on the den floor in my house, listening to West Side Story. And my parents had all this music in the house, everything, right? But West Side Story. And I sat there and I started to cry. I just felt like I had seen God. And so that was it. That was more it than, so my heart and soul was always in the interesting melody, the crafted lyric, the adventurous, the adventurousness of something like West Side Story. And so that's why later I got into the theater as well. But I mean, but as I said before, I'm basically a musician and I love all kinds of music. But that's the closest to me, to be honest.
Because you did write stuff that I know was off Broadway. I'm not sure if it ever went Broadway or touring company kind of stuff, but a lot of people who can write theater can't write traditional songs. So again, it goes to your credit of being this multifaceted guy that sometimes it's a 4-minute ballad, sometimes it's a long form thing. You're just so hard to pigeonhole and define. And as you said before, you learned at a certain point, I'm going to stop taking advice and stop pigeonholing myself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we did make it to Broadway, actually, interestingly.
Okay.
I did something with Kathy Lee Gifford and David Friedman called Scandalous. And we went in 2012, we made it to Broadway. But to answer your question, I mean, the thing that's most interesting to me, and as a writer, you'll relate to this, is the song. I mean, I'm so interested. Mm-hmm. I'm so interested in it. And so if I have an assignment, like for a movie or for a theater piece, I have to look and see what is the character doing and what needs to be said, what hasn't been said, and et cetera. Anyway, but it's a different kind of a requisite. With pop music, a good pop music, you want to look inside and see, what do I want to say?
Right.
But in any event, it's got to be something true. Otherwise, it's terrible, and people smell it. Right?
Well said.
Yeah.
How did you become such a star in Southeast Asia? Was that just one tour turned into more stuff? Or did you find out weirdly that you were the priority of Warner Asia and that happened?
It was none of it. It was completely organic. And I got a call in the 80s from a producer from the Philippines, and he said, your songs are huge here. Your records are #1, blah, blah, blah. I want to give you all this money and bring your band over. And I thought it was a joke. I said, what? What is this? And because I, being a little ugly Americanish as I was at the time, I don't know if I ever knew where the Philippines was, to be honest.
Yeah.
I knew it was out there somewhere. But then again, we went, and sure enough, it was through the roof. Never promoted for it, never marketed it, nothing. But I will and it just sort of happened. But we sort of met because they love the big melody.
Mm-hmm.
They love it's part of their musical tradition. They're very sentient, emotional. They call themselves sentimental, with a good definition.
Yeah.
Right. Not the more jaded definition, but they're sentimental. They love love, and so that's where we kind of met. But the short story after that is, so I left there and I didn't go back for 16 years. And I thought, oh my God, I think maybe I blew a very good thing. What a gorgeous relationship. What nice people, blah, blah, blah. God, and I just sort of left, And anyway, I got another call in 1997, 16 years later, or 98. And Stephen Bishop and I and Michael Johnson were asked to go over. Anyway, similar. Everything's big, huge. So to answer your question, so then my wife and I looked at each other and went, okay, let's try an experiment. Let's see if you just said yes to everything that you're asked to do, what would happen? Right? So that's what we did. And they said, would you like to, we'd like to make a record with you, Universal and Warner's too. But Universal came by and I said, sure. And they say, you'd have to make it in Manila. Okay. Good musicians in Manila. Use our musicians. Fine. They're great musicians. We said yes to everything. And then we made the album and it did very, very well. And then they said, would you like to tour? We'd like you to tour all the little provinces. Now, Philippines is 7,000 islands. So we went to every little, yes. Sure, yeah, you bet. And we played everywhere. And I say all that, it's a fascinating story because it all added up to what you'd think it would add up to when you say yes, that unarmedly, was that the word? And disarmingly, pardon me. And it went through the roof. And that's how it got to be what it is. We have a love affair all over the world. There are 140 million Filipinos. And
right.
It's extraordinary. It's a blessing, truly.
I can imagine it is. The way that my mind was going was the more you go to other countries and you talk to other musicians and industry people from those markets, is the more you find out that somebody like, say, Tom Petty, who here is, like an all-time great artist, was unknown in certain parts in the world. The music videos didn't get played, the touring wasn't done there. And then you start to realize there's a Tom Petty-like guy that did really well in Japan. And there are these unknown people in their home country that then make a killing overseas. Like, do you know about the band The Ventures, the 60s rock band,
Sure,
The Ventures?
of course.
And in the 60s, exactly. And here we're like, yeah, they had 2 or 3 big hits. And in Japan, they outsold the Beatles 2-1 in the 60s. And so every year, kind of like what you're saying with the Philippines, every year until I think a couple of the members got sick, well into the 2000s, they were touring 3 months of the year in Japan. They're playing recital halls and in the little towns.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. I remember they used to play Mosrite guitars.
Exactly. The Ramones did years later, but they made it cool.
They did.
But not everybody realizes you're a great guitar player too. You're thought of as a piano guy, but you do appear on stage with guitar. But piano was your first instrument?
No, well, my first instrument was piano, and then guitar and drums. But guitar, I write more rhythmically on the guitar, so that's why I like to do either or.
That makes a lot of sense. When you're composing for, say, a musical, though, it all goes piano?
Yeah. Yeah, you got that big, wide harmonic possibility, you know. And in recent years, with with Logic and and tools, home recording tools, for my theater especially, I really used it as a big canvas,
Mhm.
where I can actually mess around with the melody or mess around with the arrangement or cut a bar or go, you know what, because you listen, I would like listen and go, oh, that now I'm bored. Okay. So why is that? And then I fix it. But it might have to do with the fact that it's literally 2 beats too long, that section. So I can go snip, whoop, okay, let's listen to that. So it's something, Bernstein and the boys didn't have.
Right.
He just did it with his pencil, in his ear. Or in the scene in Amadeus, when Mozart is dictating to Salieri.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene? He's in his deathbed or something, and he's saying, "Take this down," and Salieri he's going G flat 3 f, and he's writing this thing. But I have my tools, which is better.
When I speak to people on your level, I like to find out if they're the kind of people who write every day or they only write when they have a project to do.
Ooh, I want to write every day, and I don't. And it's a little bit of a sadness to me, to be honest. I mean, there are many other things I have to do. Mm-hmm. Not that I hate doing, but I just have to do, and I'd rather do just write. The best time I ever had writing, I wrote a musical about Charlie Chaplin years ago, and I went to a retreat in San Francisco, mm-hmm. cabin. It was so romantic. And I took my piano and I had a mattress and a toilet. Whew, that was it. And I closed the door and I spent the first 6 weeks in there writing every day, all day, every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. And I'd break and I'd go to a nice restaurant in the area and come back and do it again. That was that was correct for me. I felt like myself. So I'd like to get back into more of that, where I can actually give it that kind of attention. But when I do write, I'm all there. I'd like to do more than I am at present.
So speaking of present, I'm kind of getting 2 answers when I speak with artists about, like, what are you up to during COVID? And I either get I have redone my garage and I've written every single day. Yeah. My checkbook has been balanced and I've said hi to everyone, or I can't get out of bed. There's nothing to write about. I'm just waiting for this all to blow over because I watch too much Netflix. Which one are you kind of closer to?
I'm not that guy. I couldn't do that. No, I'm creating and getting bright ideas, like you, and getting, I'm like, oh, I can do this. Oh, and I have a wonderful wife with whom I work, and that makes it nice because we get to say, how about, hey, why don't we, let's get one of our songs and put it on a T-shirt, and we'll blah blah blah. I don't know, but no, it's a lot of creation going on, and I've done my garage. And I'm filing. I'm getting all these piles of things on the floor that I go, what is this? What is this? What is it? It's 2006. What? And I confront it and I go either or
take a camera photo, then throw it up.
Sure, any of those. No, but I'm staying very busy. Thank you. I'm doing well.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear all that. I can imagine at this point in your career where, sorry to just keep on showering you with compliments and pointing out how successful you've been for so long, but I have to imagine at this point in your career, every other day there's an inquiry of, hey, we found a soundboard of a show you did or a mix you did or a photo session you forgot about. Am I correct about that?
A soundboard? What do you mean, a soundboard?
The recording from the sound cage the person doing the front of house or something like that, where they go, "Hey,
Oh, oh, something that was recorded the night of the concert, kind of thing.
exactly. We saw you played the Bottom Line in '82, and we found a soundboard of it. Do you want it? Is that still happening to you all the time?"
I wish. I'd love all that stuff. What I do see, and I see it on YouTube, I see it on the internet, is people have snuck their phones into my concerts. So there'll be like this incredible, like, 500th row. There's little me up there, and the lights is like crazy, and the sound is terrible, and the person taking the thing is singing along here and there. I love you, and I was a griffin, and it's on YouTube, and there's a lot of that. So that's new. I think people are not complying with that all terribly much anymore. But I'd love to get some real sound recordings from the real thing. That would be good.
Have you been collecting everything from your career over the years? Is everything just in this storage space somewhere?
Yeah. It is.
And should I read that as two storage spaces of stuff?
Well, yeah. There are two. Only because I don't know, maybe I'm just overly self-important or something. But I hate to be sorry that I threw something away. That's the other thing. Some of it is like these cool 24-track master tapes, from either from albums or projects or things
Right.
that didn't get off the ground or whatever. Someday I'll blah. There's a lot of that in there. And then there are things that I just never know if I should keep it or not, so I just keep it. And my wife says, "Honey, there's a bill. You've got, all of this. I've got storage in California and in Florida. And maybe someday they'll make a library like Jimmy Carter."
I was hearing, do you remember the hard rock band called Dokken that is still around?
Yeah, from Germany, yeah.
American, but got their record deal in Germany, so people think that Don Dokken is German.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. But yes, I'm familiar with them, yeah.
And Don Dokken just put out a new thing called like Dokken the Lost Songs, and he was cleaning out his storage in the midst of COVID, and bunch of songs in the early '80s I didn't know existed. And he had a little bit of a challenge because he learned that the tape disintegrates within a certain number of years unless it's baked into some kind of an oven thing. Have you heard of that?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that's what happens. You bake the tapes, and somehow it retains its integrity and doesn't fall apart. It doesn't just disintegrate. Yeah, that's one technology.
Yeah, so hopefully those 24 tapes can be baked. 24 track tapes can be baked when the time's right.
Good point. Holy moly! Better check it out. Yeah.
Well, two quick questions, and then you're a free man.
That's fine.
And the first question is there anything in your career you haven't yet accomplished that you're still hoping to accomplish one day?
Whoa, wowie, wow. Sure. Well, I do a one-man show version of my Charlie Chaplin musical. Mm-hmm. And it was something that we made. I wrote the musical with a friend. I co-wrote the book with Stephen David Horowitz, and I wrote music and lyrics. And we did it in England, and we made a big record of it on Warner Brothers with Richard Harris and Mel Brooks and all of these amazing people. And then I got this crazy idea, since I was doing backers auditions and singing all the parts. And my father at the time said, "Why don't you just do that on stage?" And I went, "Oh, Dad." Oh, as most sons would. "Oh, Dad." And then a few years later, I got the notion that I would try it. And so I've been doing that. I've been performing that as a one-man musical. We've toured America, we've toured Australia, and I'd like to see that really, I'd like to see it be filmed. I'd like to see it go to New York, have that kind of thing. And, I have lots of things. I don't want to bore you with them, but aside from the fact that I feel very creative and very the older we get, the more I get, the more I realize that, before the gun goes off, the end of race,
Yes.
or beginning of new race, or whatever that gun represents, like start, go, and it's a sprint, and it's a sprint with I try to sprint with some elegance. I try to sprint with some, but I feel, and it's a fun thing. It's not a neurotic, stressful sprint. But it's definitely something, I'm very deeply motivated to produce. And so I know that's a general answer, but I have more albums I want to do. Definitely more musicals. I've got 2 that I've just written. I'm rewriting one with a guy called Will Vinton. Will is now passed away last year, but I've been working on it with Will. Will was the inventor of claymation and
wow,
Academy Award winning guy. He just passed, but he did the script and I did the music and lyrics. And we're moving along. We've got a director. We're picking up the pieces with Will's son, who's a great writer, and we're working on that. And so there'll be more musicals. There'll be more albums. Much more performance touring as soon as we can get the hell out of here. I mean, I play for my kid, my son. Hey, do.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, video, YouTubes are fine and Facebook posts are okay, and I do that. And it's not fun, but it's not the same.
I can imagine. So the last question, hopefully I'm not putting you too on the spot here.
No, it's fun.
Long Island native, what's the best restaurant on Long Island?
Woo! It doesn't exist anymore. I can't say on Long Island, but I could say in the towns that I grew up in, there was a restaurant called The Suburban, and it was in Hewlett, Long Island. Mm-hmm. And it was a real New York higher end family restaurant with veal parmesan that were made by real Italians. And I remember chopped chicken liver, which is a little Jewish New York delight.
Yeah.
And it was unsurpassed. It was just great. And then it went away. I don't know why. Otherwise, I've had I had some, I don't remember the names of the places. I ate some in Great Neck in Brooklyn and such. But the bottom line to all these things is that they know how to make this kind of, it's mostly Italian. Mm-hmm. They know how to do it. And it's, yes, you could say it's family recipes and such, but the maybe not myth about the New York water. And, I don't know. I don't think it's a myth. I don't know what it is.
I hear it's absolutely true, but I'm not a science guy.
But whatever it is, it's got a New York something, and schmaltz, and it's got whatever it is. It's correctly done for me, and I've had some of the best meals in the world in Long Island.
Well,
without question. And I've been a lot of places.
You have been a lot of places.
Yeah.
But Long Island has to take credit for you. So that's the bottom line, David. I'm all out of questions for now. You gave me so much to work with, but thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's my
Paltrocast.